Okay, welcome everybody. It is past 5:30, so we should probably start going. This is OffSec. See some new people, see some not so new people. So thanks for coming. Fill out the attendance form. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the stuff on there. If you have any questions tonight, ask on questions.offsec. And then we'll have that pulled up and ask them if you don't want to actually ask yourself. And then on resources, links to our current Google site. I'll start posting slides there and other stuff. So we'll talk about the schedule. So as some of you guys know, the schedule this semester is different from last semester. So on Wednesdays, it's now alternating between Computer Club and OffSec. So that leaves us with about 7 meetings, maybe 6 if spring break messes with stuff. So on the attendance form, there'll be like a little questionnaire asking what you guys might want to see this semester, and we'll try and make it more focused so we actually get better content and not as, and yeah, whatever. So enjoy the semester. Reach out if you have any ideas. Anything else? Anyone? No? Okay, good. Chris? No. DefSec mock. So February 9th. Go in Slack, OffSec, probably DefSec 2. You can sign up. There'll be a mock competition. You can make a team, go in there, or if you don't have a team, we will placed on one. Gib, you should join.
Yeah, Gib.
Okay, so some current events. I got that.
Oh, yeah. So this one's actually kind of old. So there's a 2.5 minute video if you want to go watch that full thing on YouTube, but I just grabbed Tyler's hidden video. So I'll just play the video first and then we'll talk about it. This is a little while ago.
Probably don't play it with sound because that's not going to work the way the stream setup is. Right now the stream I'm getting.
So
That's fine. I doubt Tyler. He does.
I think it's fine. So anyways, they went to run that. They clicked into the certificate thing. Now they go to save it. And when they're saving it, he can just pop over to command prompt, but he types the whole thing out. And yeah, so then he just gets an admin access. So the reason why that's messed up is it's a failure in the enforcement for the certificate dialog. So I think that's about all further into that I'm going to go, because it's kind of a meaty subject and that I don't know much about. So, but it affected a lot of versions, and it should be patched with like the newest version. So like the mitigation for that has just been to update stuff. This was an interesting that happened like beginning of January. So there were some pro-Iranian and anti-US messages that ended up being posted on the Federal Depository Library Program's website. And it is stored in like the web archive, so if you want to go look at it, it's on January 5th, but it's just some graphic content on there, stuff written in Arabic, and then at the bottom, the big thing was that it said that it was from, like the source was an Iranian hacker group on the page, but that's not confirmed yet, to my knowledge, unless somebody else knows something. And then the reason why they were able to gain access was just a misconfiguration with their content management system, which they didn't go into details about, but I'm assuming like, so they just left something open with probably bad credentials or something like that. That's my guess. This was a big thing, and actually kind of cool of the NSA to release it and have Microsoft fix it instead of trying to use it, because it was actually a big deal. So talk a little bit about ECC. So elliptic curve cryptography is like a way of doing really good signing. It's a good way to make signatures, not so good as far as doing cryptography. So I don't know why they call it elliptic curve cryptography. But it's a great way of like signing things. So the problem here was that some keys were left to the eye of like, I think they were just in plain text. So once they found those, they found the, I think it was just like the private key or something. They were able to just figure out how to break whatever they were using as far as signing packages. They're different variables. So that's kind of a big deal because it unravels the whole thing. So, and the way that like ECC works, if you want to think about it in just like a simple term, it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube, where you can take, and if you just do the same movements over and over on a Rubik's Cube, you take a solved Rubik's Cube, just the same movements over and over, it'll eventually come around to be solved again, which is kind of how ECC works. You have there's a few standard curves that just kind of look like a little bulb tilted on its side, and it just involves drawing lines between different points on that curve. So it's kind of a fancy thing, but super cool. And if you are monitoring for it, which I don't know, that maybe we'll end up using it in the mock as a red team, but if you're someone monitoring for it, it should show up now in Event Viewer, given that you've like updated the system, and it just pop up as like an audit CV. And also Virus Total will, if you upload a binary, Virus Total will be able to identify it too. So, but kind of a really crazy like mathematical thing that was just the result of somebody leaking something that or somebody just like leaving something available that they shouldn't have, that just unraveled the signing procedure for that. So kind of sweet, but scary. Oh, this one was interesting. The scripting engine for a bunch of versions of Internet Explorer, not like the newer versions, because those use, let's see, where is that? Oh yeah, jscript9.dll isn't affected, and most versions use that. But like a lot of Windows 7 machines, I think this was like because we're going to be seeing a lot of Windows 7 stuff, I'm kind of predicting, especially this year since it reached end of life. So like this is kind of the start of that. So just the ability to have remote code execution with like user level permissions, just as a result of a vulnerability in the scripting engine for Internet Explorer. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this. If you want to play with, there are 2 proof of concepts that are out on the internet. I just grabbed a zip file for one of them. So for the like crypt32.dll, if you want to play with the code signing stuff, if you go to resources.offsec.club, there's a POC folder, and it just has the zip file in there. So you can download it and play with the code if you want. And then I think, yeah, this was just a Python 2.
Yeah, Python 2 and Windows 7 reached end of life, so there won't be getting any more updates unless you pay lots of money, I guess. That's it.
Yeah. Rip all those Pi2 users.
Also, ATMs and whatever have been flashing up with the screen of like, hey, Windows 7 hit end of life, you need to update. So people are just like trying to get cash, and Windows is like, please update me.
Thanks.
So some places are still using it and not paying for updates, and that's.
And as far as I know, I was able to do it over break, but as far as I know, the activation servers are still online. So if you have a Windows 7 product, you should still be able to use the Windows 7 key. Granted, maybe your device can't run Windows 10 because it's probably a little beefier. So, but if you do have that if you're like, oh, I could probably run this on that hardware, the activation server is still accepted, at least for my parents' computers. It accepted the Windows 7 key and just gave us Windows 10 home. So I was like, sweet. So that works, hopefully still. But there's like stuff to rip it out of like OEM if you don't. Cow.
Oh, you even stole my power brick? I think this is actually the first OffSec meeting without a Mac. Just thought about that now. Oh boy. All right, here we go. So I made this VM that I called OffSec demo, and this is just normal VMware workstation, whatever. I'm gonna boot it up to prove I'm not like doing something too weird here. It might take a little bit because VMs. But this VM is pretty normal. I just installed Windows 10 and I installed something called Flare VM. to do reverse engineering stuff. I just reused this VM because I was lazy and didn't want to make a new one just to demonstrate stuff, so I made a linked clone, but that doesn't actually affect anything going on here. Okay, so it's just normal Windows 10 login. My username is root because that's funny to me. If I try and use like Tor as the password, it's like, nope, that doesn't work. But if I try password1bang, that should actually let me into the VM. So if I have the password, I can get in. Cool, I bypassed it, but not really. So now here's the fun part. I'm going to just shut it down. And what I'm going to do would be like if you had physical access to an actual computer, such as if I went up to one of your guys' computers and plugged in a flash drive. So on my desktop here, I have a fantastic picture of Tyler Floggin at the top of that flag. So that's pretty good. We're going to zoom in just to mess with him. All right, good enough. So we also have two ISOs, which is what actually matters here. One is called Lasersoft, which is a piece of software that you can install, and it has some data recovery stuff, some like fix my OS, it won't boot stuff, and some password, they call it password recovery. It's not password recovery, it's password deletion. And then just a normal Windows 10 ISO, if you wanted to install Windows 10, burn it on a DVD, that then you could put this in a computer and install Windows 10. Nothing weird about that. I just pulled that straight from Microsoft's site. I guess I'll just pull up the Lasersoft site real quick because it's kind of funny to me. If you go to the homepage, it looks very dated. Like even if I don't have a dark reader on or not, it's just not feeling it today. But like they have a flash drive that is huge and has like flames in the background. So I don't really know what's going on there, but this software is free for non-commercial use, although I think a lot of people still use it commercially, so whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the Lasersoft ISO into this VM, and I'm going to go and boot to it. So I'm hitting F2, because if I remember right, that isn't the BIOS key or something. We're going to try again. There we go. I just had to hit it faster. So normally this is going to boot to the hard drive of the VM. I'm going to say, no, I want you for this time to boot to the CD-ROM. Now this looks a little bit different. I can do the Windows Memory Diagnostic or the Lasersoft Live CD. The Live CD is what I actually want. Then have to wait for this thing to boot. And it looks real good. This is Windows PE. So when you download Lasersoft, you have to install a bunch of extra stuff, and it's kind of a mess. But we have Windows recovery. This has saved my butt once. There was a computer that was on during a thunderstorm. The power went all wonky. Nothing could like fix this hard drive. None of the Microsoft tools like BootRat could fix it. This did somehow, except when it booted, it was a Windows 7 computer and had the Windows XP like sliding bar when it booted. So that was really weird, but hey, it booted, so we'll take it. Data recovery, disk image and clone, and password recovery. We'll just throw some air quotes in there. I want it to reset a Windows password. Just hit next. Yes, this is non-commercial use. I can leave that default. And I can go over to this root user, which is what we signed into before with password of password1bang. Say next. Just hit this huge blue button. Password reset successfully. So I'm just going to reboot it. Let it take its time. Hopefully it goes a little faster than it did at first, but might not. It's just the best part of demos, waiting for something to hopefully work. But this time, I'm not even going to touch my computer because it just signs straight in. No password, nothing. It's just right into the OS. I don't have to do anything. Yep.
So somebody's wondering if the software works with Microsoft accounts also.
It does not, but you can unlock the administrator account. I can go back and whatever at some point too, depending on how much time is left. But yeah, you can just open up the administrator account, sign in as that, so it doesn't matter if they have a Microsoft account.
That disk doesn't happen to be encrypted, is it? Like a BitLocker or anything?
No, so that's one of the ways to stop this, which I can talk about a little bit later, because I'm going to do this another way. So, oh, that's going to happen on my host. Whoops. I'm just going to set the password again. Old password, I'm just going to leave that blank.
Does it work for all versions of Windows?
Yeah, I believe so. It works for, I know, 10. It should work for 8.18, 7, XP. Vista should be in there too. So I'm not sure about before that, but you can probably find versions of it that'll work with that. So I put the password back on. So now if I were to boot it again, it should actually ask me for a password this time and not just like push me through and be like, yep, you're good. Everything's fine. So this time I'm just going to use the normal Windows 10 ISO that you can get for free if you just Google like install Windows 10. It's like the first link from Microsoft. Need to mash F2. Ah, come on. Okay. Boot to CD-ROM again, and I have to press any key to boot to CD or DVD. So this is like the screen that you see if you're going to install Windows 10. I'm not sure. I might try and zoom this a little bit. It doesn't work as well as it does on Mac. Never mind. So can't zoom in quite as cleanly. But instead of saying install now, which could overwrite the disk, I'm going to say repair your computer. And troubleshoot, open a command prompt. If I enter a tool called disk partition, that'll let me see what volumes, if I type list vols, wait. It might work differently under this. Oh, I added an S and I shouldn't have. So I can see that there's the C drive that has 150 gigs and this D drive that's 4090. That's actually the installer, how that's mounted. A lot of the time when you do this, they'll swap around drive letters and stuff, so you gotta be careful there. But I know that C drive is what I'm actually going for. So I'm going to copy C Windows System 32 command.exe, the command prompt. I'm going to copy that over C Windows System 32 sethc.exe. And we'll see what this is once it actually reboots and gets in here. So what I did there, I just copied command prompt over some other file. And that was not affecting the ISO I was in, it was affecting the actual physical computer, in this case the VM. Any other questions come up, Chris?
Yeah, somebody just asked about doing it with Linux, so I posted something on offset.
Yep, it is possible. You can do it with Kali ISO as well. So then you have to like mount that device and do some weirdness. I can't remember what command actually looks at it, but okay. So we're here, and there's still a password. Boo, it didn't work. But if I try and activate sticky keys by hitting Shift 5 times, there's a command prompt on my login screen. That's not great, but let's see who it's running as. Yikes. That has full power to do literally anything on the system. So I can just say net user, that says I'm using the net command, I'm using the user subcommand, specify username of root, and I'm going to throw a star here because that's the password field. But if I put a star, it'll say, hey, put a password, hey, put a password. I'm just not going to. Then I can exit. Ta-da. And then you're just right in the VM. And the command prompt persists no matter where you are. So it's just a nice little shortcut at that point. Adds a little bit of functionality. So someone mentioned earlier, like, but what if your disk is encrypted? That can stop this. That's the best way to stop this. Another way that people would say, oh, I can set my my BIOS to have a password. Then they're not going to be able to get into it, right? Well, if you just rip out the CMOS battery and whatever, it's just going to reset, no password on that thing anymore, and you can reset the boot order. So the best way that I know of to stop this attack is don't let someone physically access your devices, or use BitLocker encryption, and don't have like a terrible password or put it on a sticky note under the keyboard, because people do that and it's bad. So yeah, those are two ways of doing it. There is also, you can do it with Linux. Anyone have any questions? Want me to poke around with something? Play around with like LaserSoft or whatever? Show off some more things?
Did you choose to like have it activate when you're trying to do sticky keys? Or can you change what
So sethc.exe is what runs when you hit shift 5 times. That's what comes up for sticky keys. So I just said, instead of using the actual binary, instead run the command prompt. So I could copy anything else over sethc.exe and just have something run instead of sticky keys. I believe that this also works even if you have sticky keys disabled, because sethc.exe always runs when you hit shift 5 times, but you can like have the option to not come up with a pop-up. But if you replace the binary, then it just runs. So, yep.
I think there was a, I'm not particularly clear on there's another way to do it, but there was a method of using registry editor on the Windows boot disk where you just change the startup command to spawn a command shell. Are you aware of that?
I've seen it. I haven't played with it at all.
I don't remember it very well, so.
Yeah, you can.
Let's try it.
Let's not do a live demo for the first time like
Let's try
that.
it, Kyle. Come on.
No,
Go
I
for it.
refuse. So yeah, that's something to play around with. But when you're in some sort of a boot disk that you can just mess around with whatever you want to, including the registry, like LaserSoft there messed with the SAM database, which holds all the accounts on the computer, and it just went and zeroed out that user's entry. So that's how it just signed in, because according to Windows, there was no longer a password there. So yeah, you can mess around with the registry or group policies or whatever you want to. So yeah, if your machine is physically secure, that goes a really, really long way. There was a vuln for Linux with Grub back, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, that if you hit, I think it was backspace like 28 times, that then you could just reset root password. Like, it's weird. If you hit it one too many times, it wouldn't go, and you had to like wait a little bit. So if that's a malicious backdoor, I don't know, but could have been. Any other questions? Cool. Thanks. Okay, so hopefully everyone filled out attendance, just because that helps us keep track of who's here. And I'm going to end the stream. So, yeah, short meeting for today.